Now before, it says lecture on the Katha Upanishad. So we will do that. But before doing that, I would like to say a few words. Why I thought it was appropriate that we should start with the worship. That wasn't actually part of the program. It says devotional singings. We didn't have devotional singing, but we did have a worship. The thing is that if you look at modern civilization, you look at the world, you look at what's going on in the world outside, outside the United States, you look at what's going on inside the United States, and things in some respects are improving and are good, but there is something very fundamentally missing in modern society. What is missing is the feeling or the idea, the knowledge, the experience of something spiritual that is not physical and not mental. The basic problem of everyone, really speaking, always is a spiritual problem. I mean, we have physical problems. We need money to survive. We need a certain amount of convenience and comfort and order and cleanliness, and we need all these things. But they should come second. The first thing we need is to know who we are and why we're here and what we're supposed to do here. That's the first thing we should know. And that's the thing, not knowing it, we become very sad, we become very confused, and we're full of problems. The basic truth that Vedanta and this Katha Upanishad, which we are going to talk about, the basic thing that everyone says, who, all the great spiritual teachers tell us, is that unless you know God, you will not achieve fulfillment or satisfaction beyond a certain point. You can get a certain amount of satisfaction, a certain amount of fulfillment, a certain amount of happiness, a certain amount of joy. But to progress in that, you have to bring God into the picture. Now, what is God? Mostly we don't know. We can repeat what our parents have told us, we can repeat what spiritual people have told us. Prophets and saints, Sri Krishna has given a long discourse in the Bhagavad Gita. The Upanishads are there, the Bible is there. The Quran is God's words. All these things are there. The Zenda Vesta is there, all the holy books are there. But unless we feel in our own hearts that God exists, somewhere it's going to be empty and not very satisfying. Then the question is, how do you get the idea that God exists? How do you feel the presence of something like this? What is God? God is a word that what is its meaning? It means something that is infinite, it has no boundaries, something that is eternal, it has not come into existence and it will never go out of existence, and something that is all-pervading. There's nothing anywhere that is, there's no cubic inch of space that's not filled with God. There's no second, no minute of time that is not filled with God. That is what the definition of God. That which fills all space and all time, that which is the foundation of all of our thoughts, that which is the rock on which our life is built. That is God. Do we know God? In general, no. We read the words of the scriptures, we read the great sayings of the holy people, but we don't really have a feeling for it. Yes, we should. We sit there and we try to meditate, and that's good, and we try to pray, and that's very good, and we try to talk about that, that's very good, but we don't have a real feeling. What is God? What is the Spirit? What is that infinite thing upon which our whole life is based? How do you find that? That is the message of all these scriptures. That's the message of all devotion. It's the message of all spiritual practice, of all sacrifice. Find God, find God, find God. That's the only purpose of life. It says in the Upanishads, those who pass away from this existence without having tasted at least a little bit of that, their life has been very incomplete. That is the purpose, that is what we should try to get to. Find out what that is. That is the homework. You guys have got homework to do, right? You get homework, yeah? I'm going to give you some homework. This is homework. And I expect you to report back to me sometime or other. Do you feel the presence of God? Do you feel the presence of something? What is God? Something that's infinite, eternal, has never come into existence, never will go out of existence, it always was. A reality that always was, that is right now and always will be. That's God. That which was in the past, which is now true and which will be true forever. What can that be? The basis of our existence. The foundation upon which we stand is the divine foundation. Now, you go to, science will tell you, well, the foundation of everything is atoms and molecules, and then you break up these atoms and you've got protons, neutrons, electrons. You break up protons, neutrons, and electrons, and you have quarks and mesons and all sorts of strange little particles they talk about. Okay, that's fine. Now break those up. What do you have? And you mentioned some other particles, maybe vibrating strings. Now that vibrating strings is one of the things they talk about, although nobody has ever seen a vibrating string, nor can ever see it, because by definition it's too small to be ever perceived. Nevertheless, the physicists talk about it. So, okay, fine, you break those up and find out what it is. That is, this is what science does, and it's very useful, it's very helpful for our ordinary life, very helpful for understanding our place in this universe. Great. Science is has made wonderful contributions, no doubt about that. We're here basically because of science. We would die of heat if it weren't for electricity and fans and air conditioners and who knows what, airplanes. I would have had to walk from San Francisco. If somebody, if the Wright brothers hadn't managed to create something that flew, you know. No, I mean, this is all wonderful. There's no problem, there's no criticism at all. My only thing is, it doesn't go far enough. Science is absolutely wonderful, and we should learn more about it, make better use of it, and all that. Definitely we should. But it does not go far enough. Why doesn't it go far enough? Because it cannot go far enough. It can only limit itself to the physical world. It cannot answer the basic questions of life. Why are we here? Where do we go after we die? I had an interesting experience. We're renovating our old temple in San Francisco. How many people have seen the old temple in San Francisco? Katha Swami is the only one?
No, I've seen it.
Because you worked in Foster City, right? Only 2 people have seen the holy city of St. Francis. That's absolutely... Alok, of course. Of course.
I've seen the city, but not the temple. Sorry.
But not the temple.
I lived there for 8 months.
Anyway, the old temple was built by Swami Trigunati, who was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. And it's a fantastic structure with, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, you've never seen a building like that. You can Google it, and then you get a picture of it. Nowadays, you Google. Google, and next to God, there's Google. Right? So, those science helps you to do all of these things, and it's absolutely no criticism. It's a wonderful thing. The only thing is, it cannot go farther than it does, and it does not go far enough. What is the basis of our life? What is the basis of our existence? What is the everything? What does this whole universe float on? This whole universe is established on something. What is the basis of our experience? If you ignore God, you ignore the basis of your own existence. Because what's in the depths of your heart is a spiritual reality. That's what all the saints and sages tell us. What is the foundation of our life is something which does not die, which was never born. What I was going to tell you about the old temple was, we had there was a cornerstone laying, 1905 it was originally built, before the San Francisco earthquake. But they put a cornerstone there. Cornerstone is a traditional, who knows what a cornerstone is? Oh, nobody knows what a cornerstone is. Cornerstone is a traditional thing that is done to buildings. When a building is constructed, at the corner of one corner of a building, they put a special stone which has embedded in it in such a way that you can't get to it unless you destroy it. It has embedded into it certain documents from the time that the building was built. And it's not supposed to be open for at least 100 years. Then whoever is living at that time, they can open it if they want and find out what their ancestors 100 years before, what they did, how they built the building, what they put into it, all sorts of significant things. Well, anyway, we had to remove the old cornerstone, 1905 cornerstone, because it was in the way of the renovation of the temple. So we made our own cornerstone. We bought a bigger box now. They had a little box like that, but we're much more important. We need a bigger box. So we got a big box, and we put all sorts of modern records of today. so that in 100 years or more, people could open it and say, oh, these old people, you see, this is what they did, this is what life was like 100 years ago. But it was a very, very interesting little ceremony we had, because it became absolutely clear that none of the people who was participating in that ceremony was going to be there for the next opening. That was a shock. I mean, actually, of course, theoretically, I know. Everybody's, we're all on a treadmill, and eventually we'll, disappear into the sunset. We know that. But to actually have it physically in front of you, see, all the people, there were only about 4 or 5 people there involved in putting in this new cornerstone. But even a baby just born that day would hardly be likely to be around in 100 years. Very few people would get older than 100. So just the very fact that all the people who were working at this, none of them was going to be around. And of course, all of us included. But we forget that. We forget that we have a homework to do before all of us have to move off the stage, and we're all going to majestically we're going to walk off the stage of this world, and we know that. Our great-great-grandparents, where are they? I mean, But the important point is, what are we going to take with us? We all have to go off the stage. What are we going to take with us? We have to find something that is permanent, something that is not changing, something that if we hold on to it is not going to disappear from under us, is not going to prove to be a disappointment, is not going to get destroyed. Is there such a reality? Is there something right here in this room right now which is permanent? Of course we can say, yes, Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji, Jesus, Buddha. Yes, we say the principle that they embodied is permanent. But do we have something right now in ourselves, right now in our consciousness, which is permanent, which is going to be here in 100 years or 1,000 years? And the answer is yes. Within the heart of each one of us, inside our own reality, is that truth, is that infinity, is that thing which does not change. And what's our homework? Homework for all you guys too. What's that homework? To find that thing. It is there, it exists, and once you find it, it doesn't matter you're the body, where the body comes and goes, nobody's going to live much over 100, no matter how strong they are. You know that this is going to go away. And, but is there something within us which does not go away? Is there something in us which is permanent, which is strong, which is undying, which is eternal, literally eternal, which is infinite? There is within us that. Can we find it? Yes, we can find it. What proof do we have that we can find it? If you go, for instance, meditation is one, you can get a hint. How do you get a hint? If you calm your mind. Or why is it that we don't feel the presence of God? Why don't we feel, if God is all-pervading, is the essence of everything, why don't we know this? You know? Tell me.
Because, since God is immersed in everything and everywhere, the presence is also immersed within us. So what happens is, we think of God as a different being, a different idol. But in fact, since it's actually in us, we never realize that we can bring it out in ourselves, so we never try to actually bring it out.
Very good. And a child shall lead them. That's right, he's absolutely right. The God is within us. That is what all the saints and sages say. And how do you get to it? By calming the mind. What is meditation supposed to do? Meditation is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. This is Patanjali's, the second aphorism of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the verses on yoga. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What is yoga? Yoga is the Nirodha, the controlling of the waves of the mind. Chitta Vritti, you could say the modification, the waves of the mind, of the chitta, that is the memory, that part. God is fully present in him too. And he may, if he hears, if you bring him here like this, he may, he may outpace us all. No, that is the thing, that the calming of the mind, if the mind becomes calm, if the mind becomes quiet, that truth is revealed. This is what the saints who have discovered it, who have experienced it, tell us. Now, I've got a wonderful example to explain that. How many people know Lake Tahoe in the Sierra Nevadas? Ah, you've been there. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Your
Lake Tahoe,
father
we were
has.
there.
Oh, you've all been there?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Lake Tahoe has one quality. It is a absolutely beautiful lake. We have an ashrama on the shore of that lake in which every summer we have a retreat there. For about 9 days we have a retreat. In July we just had that retreat. But there's one characteristic of that lake. It is, the water is very clear, very pure.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at that lake when the wind is blowing, you see wonderful phenomenon. You see the reflection of the hills, and there are mountains. The lake itself is at 6,300 feet. The mountains around it go to 9,000 and 11,000 feet. And you see a beautiful panorama of mountains and clouds, and the blue of the sky is reflected in the water. It's absolutely fantastic. But there's one crucial thing which you do not see. You don't see what's in the lake at all. You don't see what's actually at the bottom of the lake, what's in the water at all. Why? Because everything, the water is all agitated by the wind, and it nicely reflects everything on the outside. The hills and the sun and the sky, and everything is beautifully reflected. But you have no idea what's in it. And that's how we live ordinarily. That's our life. We don't know what's inside us. But we see everything outside beautifully and very clearly. But, and it happens very seldom, because at that elevation the wind is always blowing. But sometimes it happens that the wind at Lake Tahoe does not blow. And the water becomes very, very still. Then what do you see? All the reflections of the hills and the mountains and the sky, that completely disappears. You don't see that at all anymore. But what is it that you see that you did not see when the wind was blowing? You clearly see every pebble on the bottom of the lake.
Yeah.
Because the water is so pure and so clear that it looks as though there's no water there at all. You don't actually see the water at all, but you clearly see what's on the bottom. That is a beautiful example for meditation. When the mind really stops like that, which of course takes a long time, takes a lifetime or several lifetimes to accomplish, but when it is accomplished, when the mind becomes quiet, what is in the mind, or what the mind has been hiding from us, becomes clearly visible. So the Atman, Brahman, God, that ultimate reality, is within us all the time, but because our mind is busy with so many things all around, we don't see it. So meditation is to calm that mind. And when the mind becomes very calm, you don't even realize the presence of the mind at all. It's as though the mind were not there. But the Atman, Brahman, the reality within, which was being hidden by the wave of the mind, becomes revealed. So it isn't, God is always in us, is always with us, is always fully present. There's no moment of time when God is not present. There's no cubic inch anywhere in the world where that God does not fill utterly. But we're not able to see it. So when the mind stops, when in meditation, when the mind becomes very calm, that reality which is already there reveals itself. And it's the perception of that reality that is religion. It's the perception of that which is infinite, which is eternal. That's what we call God. It is within us already. So that is the message. And what is the way of doing it? Meditation is one of the ways, but a very effective additional way. I mean, as Swami Vedananda gave 4 ways. Raja Yoga is there, there's also Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. He divided it into 4 different yogas. But the whole point is concentration of the mind. Now, as the reason I brought it up was because I felt that it was important to start with a worship. Worship of Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji, Buddha and Christ, and Om. What is Om? In the Katha Upanishad, now we're talking about Katha Upanishad, Sarva Vedaya Padamamananti, what all the Vedas, that goal which all the Vedas proclaim, Tapamsi Sarvani Chayad Vedanti, what all tapas, what all austerities aim at. Yadichanto Brahmacharyan Charanti, that which people aim at by practicing lives of purity, that I will say in summary, in brief, Sangrahema Bravimi, I will say in brief, it is Om. So Om is that symbol. Om is the symbol of that reality that is the core reality of ourselves.
Who said that, Swamiji?
Huh?
That Yama said Nachiketa?
What?
Who said that to whom?
Katha Upanishad, it simply stated.
Yama says to Nachiketa?
Well, yes, because it's basically Yama's dialogue. But generally it's taken just as a definition. Yeah, Yama is saying, and Yama is the narrator. So Om is also Om is symbolic in another way. Om is you see, it's not really OM. It's A, U, M. And there's a significance to that. As Swami Vivekananda explains it quite clearly, A is made in the throat, A. It's as far down as you can utter anything. M is with the lips closed. M. So if you figure that all words are somewhere between A and M, U is in between, it's halfway, it's formed sort of in the roof of the mouth. A, U, M. Om is symbolic of all the words, all the sounds that can be made. All sounds are made using that something between A and M. All sounds originated there. Now what's the significance of that? Because anything, any idea, any thought, any conception, anything at all that comes to our attention is associated with a word. Without it being associated with a word, it may not be a specific word in a specific language, but there's a sound associated with all concepts. Swami Vivekananda explains these things. So that whenever, that means everything that exists has a sound symbol associated with it. So, and what is the most general sound symbol? A, U, M. Om is the most general symbol. So Om is that which symbolizes everything that exists. All thoughts, all ideas, all concepts, because everything can be expressed in words. So Om is the basic matrix of everything that exists. So Om is symbolic of the totality, is symbolic of Brahman. And the Katha Upanishad, of course, explains that. But there's a very important additional concept here. Without Sri Ramakrishna Mother Swamiji, nothing would happen. Now that doesn't mean this is not a dogmatic statement. Any of them, Buddha is Jesus, all the holy people, all the saints, without the human exemplars, none of this would reach us. It becomes a theory and we say, oh yes, very good, yes, in theory. Just like I know that this wall is made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of protons, neutrons, electrons, and so forth. And I know that this fan is run by electricity, which, and I can talk about Maxwell's equations and how that, electricity and magnetism, I can give very learned discourses on all of that. But it doesn't reach you unless, spirituality does not reach you unless it's filtered through a human frame. Now you may say, no, I don't believe in that, I'm a pure Advaitist, I don't want any human representation, I don't need it. That's fine, that may be so, because there's an exception to every rule. But for 99% of people, unless it comes through a human exemplar, it doesn't come. And what does the human exemplar give? What does Sri Ramakrishna Mother Swamiji, what do they give? They move the heart. Most of our life is centered in our heads, in our minds. We figure things out, we think about our duties and responsibilities, we think about how this world is constructed, We think about what we ought to do and ought not to do. Everything is in the mind. And that's fine. That's the way we are. We are constituted that way, and that's how we live our life. That's great. But unless the heart gets active, nothing very deep is going to happen. It'll all stay on the surface. It all becomes a matter of thought. When you bring it to the heart, it becomes a matter of feeling. And that feeling enables you to go deeper than the thought can go. I mean, it's just, you can try it. You know, you can say, you know in theory so many things, but when your heart tells you otherwise, the heart somehow manages to override all of that. And if you only live in your head, mentally, logically constructing everything, the heart is not moved, life appears to be missing something, appears to be unfulfilled. So the heart has to be activated. Swamiji made this point. He said, I would much rather have all heart and no brain than all brain and no heart. Because the heart goes where the brain goes deeper than where the brain can go. All right, you might as well give that to me. I'm supposed to read it. Probably I'm way running out of time. That's the trouble, you see. Topic is Katha Upanishad. What do you think I'm talking about? Just to make sure I have the, you see? Anyway, I talked about Om. You've got to give me credit for that much. No, the whole point is, what is the message of the Upanishad? That is the point. Now the message is, through exemplars like Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji, we come to the heart of things. Otherwise, I can quote from the Upanishad and I can give a learned monologue on, how the basic ideas, the basic concepts and all of that. And you'll say yes, yes. And you go home and say, oh yeah, that was a good talk. But nothing very profound has happened inside. Something has to happen inside.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's good, it's okay, it's helpful, there's nothing wrong with it, and it's, it's inspiring and all that. But something has to happen inside. It has to touch our life. So that's why I wanted to start with the worship of Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji. It is through them, or Buddha, Christ, or any other exemplar like this. It is through that the heart begins to appreciate and actually get activated into this. All right. Now, since Mr. Kanta Swami has insisted,
They don't know the story. Most of them do not know the story of Nachiketa Swami.
most of them what?
Do not know the story of Nachiketa, what he went to Yama's place and all that.
Yes. Okay, now since I talked about the heart, I better talk about Nachiketas, right? If I stay too long on the philosophy, I'll be contradicting myself. All right, Swami, yes.
Can I ask you a question before?
Oh, absolutely, anytime.
Okay.
I'm totally interruptible, by the way.
Thank you. But I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to ask because You spoke about exemplars and Gautam Buddha and Jesus Christ and everybody. I haven't read Buddha's teachings or the Bible, but do they all talk about God in the same way?
No. They all have their own interpretation, their own presentation. And it's meant, the reason there's so many religions is because there's so many different kinds of people. So each presentation is meant to will be responded to, or a certain type of people will respond to one presentation more profoundly than another. So all these are available. And Sri Ramakrishna practiced them all and preached them all, and that was the idea, that all paths lead to that reality. But the point is, if you're on a path, if you're not on a path, then it's very unlikely you'll make much progress there. That's the point. You should be aiming at something. Whether you aim at Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Rama, or whatever, that doesn't matter, because these are all exemplars of that reality. But you should aim at something. Not doing anything is not an option. That is the point. Ignoring the problem is not an option. Solving it in any way that is acceptable to you is wonderful. Or attempting to solve it, approaching it in any way that seems reasonable to you is very good. But somehow aim for it. That's the idea. Okay, now Mr. Kandaswamy wants me to talk about Nachiketas. Now, Nachiketas was a young boy, and he, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't, because he went against what his father wanted, so maybe I don't want to be teaching non-obedience of children to their parents. That should not be the interpretation. But what Nachiketas did was, his father was performing a sacrifice in which he was supposed to give to the priests. He was supposed to give his wealth to the priests as merit, and for that he would get great religious merit. So, but what he was giving away was, his wealth mainly consisted of cows and such things. Those were the sort of the currency in those days. But he was giving away the oldest cows, the ones that couldn't eat anymore. I mean, the ones who couldn't calve, they couldn't have calves anymore, they were too old. The ones who, no milk, they couldn't eat grass, they couldn't calve, they couldn't, in other words, they were useless to him, so he gave them away. So the boy looked at that and he said, well, my father is not going to get any reward for this. I mean, he's doing it in order for religious merit. He's not going to get much merit from this, giving away all the old cows. So then he said to him, Father, to whom will you give me? You're supposed to give away all your wealth. You've got to give me away too. I'm part of your wealth. So to whom are you going to give me? And his father was very annoyed at this upstart youngster. What does he mean? So he repeated the question 3 times. Finally his father was, got very irritated, and he said, I give you to death. So then the boy thought over to himself, well, now let's see, my father has given me to death. Now, what purpose of death is he going to be able to is he going to fulfill by giving me to death? What can he possibly get out of this sacrifice? He says, I mean, he's giving me away as though I'm totally worthless, because he's giving away all the worthless cows anyway, so the implication is I'm also worthless, he's giving me away too. Yeah, but then he thought, no, I'm not that worthless.
Yeah.
I mean, among many people, I'm not the first, but I'm not the last either. I'm usually, you know, in the middle somewhere, and I could be of some use to him. Why is he giving me away? And so he kept asking his father, you know, to whom will you give me? To whom will you give me? 3 times he asked. The 3rd time his father got irritated and said, I give you to death. So then he had to go. The father had said so, he had to go. And but he came to the house of death. I mean, death was the god of the underworld. He had a palace and all of that, so he went to the palace of the king of death. And the king of death was not at home, for heaven's sakes, you know. Who would have expected that? You'd think God, death is always at home. But he wasn't at home, he was on some business, some important business somewhere else. Anyway, for 3 days he was not at home, and the boy just simply sat there, and he wouldn't eat anything until death had come and he had fulfilled his father's command that he should go to death. So, but now death was in trouble, you see, because a respectable young boy is there, for 3 days sat in his house without taking any food. And he thought, oh, that's, you know, I mean, death itself became afraid. I don't know what he was afraid of, but he was certainly afraid. He said, oh, let there, you know, let it be well with me. I have been treating you so in an uncivil manner. Choose 3 boons. I'll give you any 3 boons, and please forgive me for this infraction. So Nachiketas, the boy, asked for, first of all, he said, he was very clever, you see, he had gone to the whole house of death. He said, when you send me back to my father, he should not be angry with me. Now, death had said nothing about sending him back to his father. After all, he'd gone to the kingdom of death. See, that's just like the person who was asked, he was told he could have 1 boon only on some occasion. Only 1 boon he could ask for, and that boon would be fulfilled. So he asked, he said that he wanted to eat from gold plates with his grandchildren. Of course, he was not married, he had no children, and second, he had no gold either. So with that 1 boon, you see, he got a whole family, he got his children, and he got gold plates and all of that. Just from 1 boon, he got everything. So Nachiketa said, when you send me back, my father should not be angry with me. All right, so that means Death had to send him back. So, okay, yeah, all right. So he did that. Then the next thing he asked for, people talk about heaven. That sounds like a very desirable place. I'd like to go to heaven. So Death again had to give, he was promised 3 boons, so okay, he had to say, all right, I'll teach you the way to get to heaven. But then came the 3rd boon. And he got an extra one. Death gave him an extra one. This special procedure for getting to heaven will be named after you. Oh, well, 3.5 boons. But now came the 3rd boon. And what was that? What did he ask for? Well, when a person dies, some people say he is, and others say he is not. In other words, some people say there is survival of death. Even after he's dead, something remains, something survives. Other people say, no, nothing survives. What is the truth of the matter? After all, you're the king of death. I mean, who else is going to know? You know, you're the authority on the matter. Tell me, what happens when a person dies? And death was very much perturbed. He said, oh, please, don't ask me that question. It's a very difficult subject. Even in ancient days, people were confused about this. And no, I don't, release me from that boon. This is too difficult for me to explain what happens. But Nachiketas, no, he said, well, now you said, you gave me 3 boons, this is my 3rd boon, and furthermore, there's no better teacher than you, you're the king of death, who else is going to know about this? So, anyway, he pleaded. Then death said, oh, you know, release me from this boon. I will give you wealth, enormous wealth. I will give you a big family and all sorts of boons in this world, to enjoy this world in so many different ways. I will give you horses and chariots and dances and songs and fantastic life in this world I will give you, but don't ask me about the meaning of death. Now, of course, as soon as he said that, that boy was not going to have anything else. That's what he's going to ask for. So he said, no, you can keep all these, you know, chariots and dances and money and all of these comforts, and keep them all for yourself. I want to know the answer. What happens when people die? What happens after death? Do they continue to live, or is that the end of everything?
Yeah.
So then Death understood that he was a person who would not be put off, who would go to the very end to find out this. And that's the basic problem of life. The basic, subsidiary problem is how we get along in this world. Yes, it's important. We need money, we need a place to live, we need employment, we need this, we need that. But we can get all of that in a, usually in an ordinary way. We generally manage to get that. And if we don't get it, usually we can get help to at least get some preliminary, some helps. We can manage to live in this world, in other words. But the one thing we cannot get normally is this thing. What happens after death? What happens to us? Okay, we talk about reincarnation, this and that, but still, it's still a big mystery. But the heart of the matter is not what happens after death, but to whom does death happen? The important thing is not what happens after death, but who is it that dies? That is the important question. And who is it that dies? The physical body dies. That's quite obvious. But is that me? And the answer is no. It is not you. The physical envelope dies, just like you change your clothing. Clothing gets used, gets dirty, you change it and you put on other clothes. The Gita explains it that way. You change your clothing, in that way also you change your body. This body has become incapable of carrying you further, carrying the spirit further. The body is dropped, but the spirit is there, unchanged, unmoved, undisturbed. And it acquires another body and goes on.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we alone?
Are we what?
Are we alone?
Are we alone?
Yes.
No. We're never alone. The point is, that is where all of this, as long as it depends who the we are that you're talking about. If the we is this body and the mind, then that is where we bring in help. Sri Krishna, Sri Ramakrishna, Buddha, Christ, and all that. That's our source of help. As long as we think that we are the body, as long as we feel this is my reality is this entity, then we need help. And the help is in the form of people who have transcended the problem. They've gone beyond the problem. The king of death is the help we need. What is the characteristic of Yama, the king of death, in the Katha Upanishad? He has conquered death. He has understood what it is that dies and what it is that does not die. We don't know this. Right now, all we know is what dies. We don't know about ourselves what does not die. So, as long as the we is us ordinary people, the help we have, the thing that keeps us from being alone here, is the help of those people who have transcended this plane and have understood the reality of things. And their help in a more specific form would be the holy people who have realized the truth. They're with us always. We're never without their help. So we're never alone. Because those people are always accessible. Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji, Buddha, Christ, Krishna, Rama, all these beings are always immediately available to us. We're never alone. That is why this has to come along. See, if you just present Vedanta as the theory of Brahman, it'll be wonderful and it'll be sustaining, it'll be magnificent and all that. But for it to actually grab hold of our life, actually make a difference to us, these are the realities that we have to approach, that we have to appeal, because they're there. They have achieved that state of eternity. They have realized that they are not the body, they are not the mind, they are infinite spirit, divine reality, whatever name you want to give it. And that is our responsibility also. We have to realize this. I am not this body. That is, a piece like clothing. Sri Krishna talks about the clothing. When it gets old, you change it. Like that, I can change this body when it gets old or diseased or something. But I'm not the body. That's not my true nature. And nor is it the mind. The mind, there's ignorance and wisdom. Both are mixed up in there. But the essence of me, the essence of all of us, is that infinite reality which is at the heart of our being, which is our own inner nature, which is the foundation on which everything is built. But we don't really get hold of that. We cannot really touch that. We don't know how to grab hold of it. It's there within us. The great sages tell us it's there within us. But who can we grab hold of? What indication of this infinity, which is supposed to be my own reality, my own nature, what indication can I get hold of? What evidence what's the path for obtaining evidence to the existence of that? That is these great people, those people who have realized that truth. They have realized that they've gone that far. If you want to know about science and some very complicated issue of science, where do you go? You go to a Nobel Prize winner in science who has actually done the experiment and who has achieved the result. He has understood the very subtle workings of nature. You want to find out about physics, you go to one of them. You want to find out about Brahman, about God, about your own internal reality, you have to go to somebody who's done it. For God's sake, where are you going? You can't just go to the nearest store and buy 3 pounds of Brahman.
Yeah.
The Brahman is to be gotten where? From a person who has realized Brahman. And these are outstanding people who have realized Brahman, yes.
I have a question. So you're talking about that we are the spirit itself. So everybody dies a different way. Some people die quietly and some people die suddenly. So why does the spirit decide to either die quietly or to decide suddenly?
The spirit does not decide any of this. The spirit is just the inner witness inside us. We're watching. Don't you feel sometimes that things are happening to you and you're just watching what's happening? That watching is the type of thing that the spirit does. It observes, it sees. It is consciousness. That consciousness inside us is the spirit. So it watches. Sometimes things go this way, sometimes they go that way. But the thing in us that watches all this, the deepest part of that watching consciousness is that divine reality, is that God that's within ourselves.
Yeah.
So that is but how do you, without actually having gotten to that, how do you get a little hint of the fact that that's true, that within me is that consciousness? How do I get that? I can tell myself, yes, I am that consciousness and all that, but I may not feel it. It doesn't seem real to me. But if I worship someone who has actually realized it, then what I am doing is I'm touching what they have touched. And so I get closer. That's why these great people are so important. Because they have gone there, they've experienced it, and when we approach them, some of that experience, we can get a glimmer of it, we can get a glimpse of it from what they say, from their life, by prayer, because they have not died. If Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji, Jesus, Buddha, if these great people had died, what would be the point of worshipping them or meditating on them or anything? They'd be dead just like our ancestors have died. Nothing special. But the thing is, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati, the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Someone who has realized God, who has realized the Spirit, that thing has become part of their own consciousness, their own makeup, their own understanding. So if we worship them or pray to them or meditate on them, approach them in any way we like, we're approaching someone who has experienced what we want to experience. And that is the helpfulness. That's what enables us to experience it also. So that's the meaning of having this worship. It's not idolatry. Oh, okay, Sri Ramakrishna is actually there. I'm worshipping Sri Ramakrishna. Yeah, okay, you can say that if you want. But the heart of the matter is, Sri Ramakrishna has realized that thing which I'm trying to realize. So by concentrating on him, I'm able to get closer to what I want to get closer to. That's the significance of it. So that's why I thought, before we start this evening, when we're just beginning, I thought, let's start with that. Because they are the people who have gone ahead of us, and by trying to imitate them, by trying to meditate on them, by trying to understand what they understood, we can get closer to this. That is the point. Total quiet, so now I've silenced everyone. No further questions? Yes, go ahead.
So you
He is my hope.
Well, in the very beginning, you talked about the ways to get closer by doing meditation, by doing the 4 yogas. But what about compassion and kindness?
Compassion and kindness is bhakti yoga, is the path of devotion. Because why are you compassionate or kind? Because you see something very profound in the person you're being compassionate to or kind to. You see something special there. So you want to be compassionate to them, you want to be kind to them, you want to help them in other ways, because you see that, okay, on the surface this person may suffer, and so I have to be compassionate to them. But why do I have to be compassionate to them? Because there is something deep inside them which I want to also realize. I want to realize that it's not just, I may help the body. Like somebody is poor, I may give them some money. Somebody, Jesus said, when I was sick, you came and gave me medicine. When I was, in difficulties, you came and helped me. And so forth. And the disciples, Jesus' disciples said, well, when did we do that? We don't remember doing that. So he said, insofar as you did it to these, the least of my children, that means the least person in this world, you've done it to me. So we are kind to people because we see that infinite reality in everyone. Everyone has within themselves God. Living God inside each one of us, not only inside me, and I'm trying to realize it, but inside everyone. The good, the bad, the indifferent, God is present in everything.
So it is possible to reach God by showing compassion to others.
Yeah, that's it. You show compassion to them means, Sri Ramakrishna said, no, not compassion. Actually, it may look like compassion, but really it should be taken as service. I want to serve them. They have some problem, I want to try to solve that problem. Why I'm solving the problem? Because inside them is God. Inside them is a profound spiritual reality. And by being kind to them, by offering worship to them, or by helping them in any way, I'm actually serving that divine reality inside them, which I also am trying to reach. I want to reach that reality which is at the core of me, and that same reality is in the hearts of everyone else. That's why I serve them. Because I want to try to see that same reality in them that I want to see in me. That is the point. So it's not really compassion. Sri Ramakrishna made this point. It's service. Service is the method. I serve them, and therefore I purify myself, and my vision becomes clearer, and I can see more clearly. these people really have a divine reality within them, and I'm serving them in order to understand that, in order to actually experience that. Not a word, not a whisper, so everybody's totally convinced. Now, I want to read, this is the Katha Upanishad. By the way, you'll have to stop me when the time comes, otherwise I can go on forever. So when you get time, or when you, of course, when all of you fall asleep, then of course I'll have to stop also. There won't be, I won't have a choice, you know, okay, everybody's sound asleep, to whom am I going to be talking? Now, there are two important verses in here, more profound even than usual. Okay, here's the first one. Yadeveha tadamutra, yadamutra tadanviha, mrityok samrityum apnoti, ya iha naneva pasyati. Okay, so, yad eva iha, that which indeed iha is here, tad amutra, tat means that, is also amutra, is also there. What is here, nearby, is also there. Mrityok samrityum apnoti, mrityoho, from death, sa he, mrityum, death, apnoti, he reaches death. From death he goes to death. Who is it that goes from death to death? Ya iha, the one who here, nana iva pasyati, nana who sees multiplicity, iva, as it were, here. Who is it who goes from death to death? Who is it who dies? The person who does not see that everything here is filled with God. He who sees that there is one thing here and a different thing over there. That is a mistake. What is here is also there. There is no place where God is not. There is no cubic millimeter anywhere in the whole universe that is not totally filled with God. There's no millimicrosecond of time, no millipicosecond. That would be 10 to the minus 15 seconds. There's no single tiniest fraction of time that's not totally filled with God. There's no area of space that is not totally filled with God. And if you don't see that, what happens? Mrityo samrityam apnoti. From death, you will again reach to another death. You'll go through this thing round and round again. There's a wonderful joke here. I may have told this maybe 2 years ago or so when I was here. I might have told it. It would be embarrassing, but anyway, I'll try it. You know, in Italy, opera is the great thing. And you know what? Who does not know what an opera is? Everybody knows what an opera is. Anyway, but in Italy, the custom is that when a singer sings very well, when the singer finishes that song, they clap furiously. Usually, since an opera is sort of like a play, they don't clap necessarily after every time. But if someone sings really well, then they'll clap, and then the singer has to repeat that same aria again. Because they liked it so much, they want to hear it again.
Yeah.
So there was this case of this one singer, you know, she sang a particular aria and everybody, loud applause. Oh, she was so happy. So she sang it again. Again, loud applause. So she had to sing it the second time, and then a third time. And then the fourth time, the same thing went on, loud applause. So she finally got tired of it. She said, "How often do you want me to repeat this?" And then someone called from the audience, "Until you get it right." So this is our life, you see. How long are we going to repeat this life until we get it right? You see?
Right.
So this is the point. This is this mrityo samrityumapnoti, from death we go to death. When is this living and dying going to stop? When will we realize that pure spirit, the infinite, the eternal? When do we realize that? When we no longer see that there's any fundamental difference here. When we see, in spite of the surface differences, that one reality is present everywhere. When we see that, then this coming and going will stop because it's fulfilled its purpose. The purpose of life, there's only one purpose to our life. Limited purposes they are. We have to take care of our family, we have to take care of our health, we have to take care of our country, we have to take care of this, that, with many things we have to take care of. Those are temporary, subsidiary purposes. The real purpose of our life is to realize God. That is the real purpose. There's no other purpose.
Swami, I have a question. The concept of God, we have been studying from so many years, we have come to this. It is so ambiguous and kind of misunderstood by people, ordinary people. So difficult. Is it really so difficult to explain to people the concept of God? In every book, every literature, religion, then he made God and God said to him. Is it, what kind of scriptures, like Bible or Jewish book or Hindu book or whatever, the concept of God is so ambiguous and difficult for us to understand in simple words, and then it becomes totally what is called ununderstandable, not understandable to people. So in simple words, how people will meditate and think about God, keeping the mind quiet, keeping the mind totally stable, is not very possible for simple folks like us.
Who says that? Where did you get that?
By my own experience, reading scriptures and books.
Yes, so far, but not in the future. In the future, we will all know, because that's our very essence. That's our very essence. And that is what we are. We will come again and again until we learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Swamiji, what is the answer that Yama gave to Nachiketa when he asked the question? You haven't answered that one? What is death? You haven't answered the question. Yama, what is Yama said to Nachiketa when he posed the question?
No, the answer is in the rest of the Upanishad. I'm just, this particular answer I'm giving you is also Yama's answer.
Okay.
What is here is there, what is there is here. As long as you see differences here, you will have to come again and again. There is no difference.
Okay.
There's no, the idea is to, death is the perception of difference.
Okay, so thank you.
As long as you see difference, death will be there. When you see it all as divine, it will not be there. Now, he was asking about, okay, I'll just answer that I won't pride myself on being able to answer it, but I will make an attempt. So, what is God? There is this event in the Bible in which, the Israelites were captured by the Egyptians and they were put to work there as slaves, and very unhappy, they prayed to God. God inspired Moses to try to free them. So God said, God appeared to Moses in a burning bush. There was a bush that was burning, but the bush was not being consumed by the fire. So Moses was surprised at this, and he realized that there was something very profound that was happening there, and he heard a voice from the bush. And he was told to go to the king of Egypt and tell him to free all these slaves. And Moses was surprised at this. Why would the king do that? Why would he take my word for it? What authority have I got to ask such a question? So he asked, whom shall I say is sending me on this errand? Who is it that's telling me to do this? In other words, who are you? He is asking God. And God's answer was, I am that I am. In other words, that which in each one of us says, I am, I exist. There is a reality within me. You cannot imagine your own death. Because to do that you have to imagine yourself, and you are there imagining. So there is something in our life which is eternal, which is not bounded by space or time. And basically, of course there are 4 yogas, but basically 2 we're talking about tonight. One is this philosophical approach, and the other one is the worship of the holy personalities. By worshipping them and feeling their presence inside our hearts, we see them as, say, Sri Ramakrishna inside me. I'm meditating on Sri Ramakrishna. I imagine Sri Ramakrishna to be inside me. Actually, the essence that I'm imagining is also myself, that which is Sri Ramakrishna's essence, which I'm meditating on. It works for me because that is also my essence. So what is God? When I find out what Sri Ramakrishna is, or Buddha, or Christ, what they are, I also find my own reality. So what is God? God is that which comes when I meditate and calm my mind. In other words, when the water of the lake becomes very still, the reality I see is my own inner reality. So God is that which I see when the wind of my mind is totally calm. So what is inside of me is my own reality. That is God. It's the reality of everything else also.